Welcome back, guys. I am so excited for today's video because it is going to be episode 2 of the Indie Beauty Makeup Awards. Today, I'm going to show you all the palettes that I voted most used in my collection. We got pan in a lot of these palettes, most of them, and I'm excited to show you some of my favorites. Some of these are really old, so like we're going way back with some of these, and I'm so excited to share. I didn't allow myself to add the ones that I got this month because I didn't feel like that was really fair, but I know there's a few in there that's probably going to be in this category next time. But either way, I'm so excited to share it with you guys. If this is your first time here, hi, my name is Heather, and I love all things makeup, especially colorful makeup and indie brands. And if you guys love those things too, I really hope you will subscribe, and don't forget to click the little bell so you can be reminded of all my future uploads. Like I said, there is a really quite a few stacks here. I'm not even trying to count all of these, but I think this video is going to be real fun because I have some throwbacks in here as well, and I'm excited to show you all the pan that I've hit in a lot of these palettes. But yeah. Okay, so let's start with ABH. I have two palettes here, and this one is old, but it's like maybe I bought it when it released. It's the Jackie Aina palette from ABH. And I do have pan in a couple of shades, and I love the ABH formula, but more so like before I found indie brands, and now I'm like obsessed with the special shades and stuff. But I will say, if you like a shimmery formula that's just really pretty, then I do think you will like this. Some people don't like those special shades. And I did like the matte formula. You do get a lot of kick up in the pan, but that's not a deal breaker for me. But I was in love with this palette for so long. And as you can tell by looking at it, it's very well used. I probably need to wipe it down, but I think this collab was so freaking brilliant, and it didn't get the hype that it deserved. But next, we got to talk about the Renaissance palette. So this is my original, and look how nasty it is. Like, I didn't realize how bad it looked until I saw it like this. But let me just say, my older palettes have been through a lot. They've been homeless and everything, so they're allowed to be dirty. But this is my original Modern Renaissance. I think I got this in like 2015 or 2016. And we have so much pan going on in here. This was one of my favorite palettes for such a long time. It was really before I got into colorful eyeshadow, and I loved the hell out of this for so long. We have 6 shades that are panned, and some of them are almost completely gone, which is absolutely crazy, but I still think this palette is really, really beautiful. I talked about it in my Valentine's Day video, talking about Valentine's Day palettes, and Amanda saw it, and she bought me this one, which was so freaking sweet, and it's brand new. She bought it for me because I mentioned that I couldn't use that one anymore because this is the oldest palette in my collection, I'm pretty sure. But I thought that was so sweet for her to pick me up the new one. So now I just keep the old crusty one in this new box, and I try to keep it put away. But where I wanted to mention it in this video, I decided to pull that one back out. Now, this brand I loved for a really long time, and don't get me wrong, I still love them a lot, but they used to be my absolute favorite, and they're still a favorite, but they're not my #1 favorite anymore, and that's GLAMLITE. This was my first GLAMLITE palette ever, and I loved it so freaking much. Like, obviously the words and everything are gone off the front of it. I loved everything about it, but I don't know like how well it picks up on camera, but there are huge divots in every shade in these bottom 2 rows. I do have pan in this one. salted caramel and French vanilla. I wish they would bring this back because this is like my favorite pastel palette. At least it was for a long time. It's still one I like to pull out for those inner corner pops. Like, it's so good for that. Like, if you run across this on Mercari, I could not recommend it more. I just think it's freaking fabulous. It's definitely one of my most used. And then my second purchase from GLAMLITE was these 4 palettes. Now, I only pulled these 3 out because I didn't really use the margarita one as much, but these 3 were my favorite. I actually had a giveaway where I gave 3 of these away. I think it was 3. I can't remember, but we have the Dirty Martini. This was my favorite green palette for so long, and it still is a favorite. I just think they did this so freaking well. I love that they added the shade and gin in here. It's like beautiful pops. I just had so much fun with this, and I kind of wish they would come back out with stuff like this too. And then we have the wine palette. This was like the ultimate like purple palette for me for so long. Now it's the ultraviolet from Bella Beauty Bar, but I still really love this one. I love their formula. Like, it's so pigmented, it's easy to blend. This color story goes from like really light to really dark. You have beautiful shimmers. It was just a really fun one. But honestly, what surprised me was my love for this palette. We have the chocolate martini. I love like the nutrition facts on the back. Like, they have such great attention to detail, but I have used the hell out of this palette. I love this so much. When me and Amanda first like started like going out, I wore this like every time we went out. I don't know why I did neutrals. I was in a funk at the time, and I noticed like I do more neutral looks like when I'm having a bad day. I know that's crazy because I do like them too. It's just color is everything to me. Oh, and if you're curious about what's on my eyes, I picked up the new collection from Unearthly Cosmetics, the collab with her and Basket Case Beauty, and I created this look today for my video, which should be up soon if it's not up already. So then lastly, with GLAMLITE, we have the Garfield palette. This is my current favorite, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Like, every time I went to mom's, well, my mom's, I always bring this one with me because it's small and compact, but this color story is so freaking gorgeous, and I love so much that they added this gray in here. It just really, you could change up the whole palette with just that one shade. It's so freaking genius. These two together with Catitude on the lid is so pretty. Highly recommend you guys try it if you have this one. I love that look so much. Then I have 2 from Odin's Eye. And the first one is the Giant Wolves. This was a collab with Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner, and I loved this palette so much. I love this color story. I panned this shade, and I have a small pan in this one up here, but it's so beautiful. I just had so much fun with it. I think she did such a great job. These shimmers are so spectacular, like that one. I just went nuts over this, and that was really before I like played with metallics and multi-chromes and duochromes. So I think that might have been the reason why I went so nuts over this palette, but I still say the formula is fantastic. The color story is really good. I love it so much. I think they did a great job, and there was no way I could mention Odin's Eye without talking about the Hella palette. I lost my mind over this palette. I know some of you said you actually decluttered this, and I'm like, what? But, you know, our preferences are different. We all like different formulas and color stories, but to me, this palette was so freaking genius. I love it. Oh, this shade up here, Rebirth, as you can tell, it's been a favorite, and I also panned this one down here, but a lot of these shades have like really deep divots and stuff in them. This palette is so freaking gorgeous, and I just love the looks with it. This is, I don't know if I said, it was a collab with Angelica Nakavist, if you guys aren't familiar with her, but I think that is so freaking beautiful. Okay, so now we have some more throwbacks. I'm like burning up, that's why I keep lifting my hair, but we have some more throwbacks. The first one being the Pure Raw Beauty Kristi collab. It's so funny because when I watch everyone else's videos, this side is the one that's panned, which I do have pan and 2 of the shades on this side. But then this side will always be not touched, and I used this palette a lot. And it's hard because I don't know if you know about the drama going on with her. I'm not going to mention it, but if you're curious, just type in Raw Beauty Kristi into your search bar and everything will come up. But I loved her. I still, like, you know, care and everything, but I was really disappointed when I heard about all that stuff. But I loved her for so long. She's so funny, so talented, and I just was so inspired by her. I loved her videos so much, and she actually drew everything on this palette, and I think it's really, really pretty. But I worked at Panda Express when this dropped, and I told my boss that I needed to use the bathroom, and you should have seen me in there in the bathroom ordering this palette. I was so scared it was going to sell out, but I think she did a really good job on this, and I really got a lot of use out of it. But I keep it now because it's like nostalgic. That was like the first like expensive. It was like $50 I think, but that was the most expensive palette that I'd ever bought, and it was the first colorful palette that I ever bought, which really makes me want to keep it. And I have another one. It's the At Foresight palette. The dupe for this is Moonshroom by Lunar Beauty. There's a lot of similarities. You can totally pull off the same vibes. It's not exact, but there are a few exact shades. But I love this one too. I had a lot of fun with it. We have divots in a lot of these pans as well. I wish they would have added more shimmers, but I really love the mattes. And I've created some really pretty all matte looks with this one. Then we have the Zulu by Juvia's Place. Oh my god. I bought this because Angelica loved Juvia's Place. It was all she talked about, and I needed more. I only had like 5 eyeshadow palettes in my collection at the time, and they were like Makeup Revolution, which, you know, was fine. It like got the job done, but I loved this palette. Like, the shimmers are still so pretty. But this was my first time like working with more pigmented shadows, because I actually got this one before I got the ones from Raw Beauty Kristi. But I had so much fun with this palette, and I used it a lot. But now, like, I even have divots in this one. But I'm considering decluttering my Juvia's Place this year. I have not touched it other than doing these types of videos in literal years, and I think it's time to let them go. The next one is also a throwback, and it is from Kaleidos, and it's the Club Nebula. I love this palette. Like, the lettering is worn off and everything, but I have pan in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shades, and almost pan in all of the rest of them. I really got so much freaking use out of this one. It was so fun. I loved it so much. If I get the chance to pick up another one, like on Macari or something, I definitely will, because I think it's so beautiful. And I don't play with it anymore because I don't want like it to run out and not to have the shades, which is kind of stupid, but that's that part of me that was like always really poor, and I like, once I ran out of something, the likelihood of me getting it back was never, which, I mean, I literally can't get this back, but I have a hard time letting go of stuff because of that. But this one is a throwback as well, and it's from Ace Beauté. I can't wait till they come back. I miss them so much. They have the most gorgeous color stories. But this is the Nostalgia palette. This I got in a BoxyCharm, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I created so many looks with this. This was back when, like, I was first learning eyeshadow and, you know, kind of what I liked, and was just playing around. I created some of the best sunset eye looks with this palette. It's so beautiful. It makes me so happy even looking at it, which is why I've kept it for so long. I only have 2 palettes from them now. I have the Ambiance palette too. That's another favorite, but it's not like most used. Okay, so now we're moving on, and I want to talk about the Heather Austin palette, the one that she did with ADEPT. This palette has been so freaking fun for me. I haven't hit pan in any shadows yet, but I am close to 2. But I have used this palette to death. It is so freaking fun. This color story is so beautiful. They have updated the packaging, and her name is like in metal, which is really, really pretty. But I could not recommend this one more. I'm pretty sure it's still available, but this palette is so perfect for fall and winter. You could get some really beautiful winters like looks with this, but Adept's shimmer formula is definitely one of the best. It's one of my favorites. Like, look at that. And those are all one swipe. I mean, this one was done on a pinky, so for it to look that freaking good is pretty incredible. But I love their shimmer formula. They are a bit pricey, but I mean, if you know the Adept formula, you'll probably agree that the quality is there. The price makes sense for the quality is what I mean, but it's so freaking beautiful. And it's one that I've pulled out time and time again as well. Okay, so this next palette is from NOMAD Cosmetics. I do have a code with them, and it's AOML, and it will save you 10%, but this is the New Zealand Stargazing palette, and this is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. They just really freaking did something with this one. It had like really cute pan embossings, but I have used the heck out of this one off the camera. It's so beautiful. The shimmers are so gorgeous, but it's just like, it's more than just the formulas being spectacular. It's also the fact that this color story is so unexpected. It's so, like, I want to say that it's unique, but it's not, because I'm pretty sure Lethal dropped a palette with a similar vibe, and so did Unearthly Cosmetics. They dropped the Dreamer palette as well, but I think this one's my favorite, and it's so freaking beautiful. They really just did such an amazing job with it. It's so fun. I love the gray, and I love the gray undertone of this one. I've talked about this palette a lot because it's one that always sticks out in my mind. And the same thing could be said for this one and the next one, honestly. But we have Peach Perfect from Gourmande Girls. My code and everything is the same with them. But guys, I have raved and raved and raved about this palette. If you love this color story, you're gonna lose your freaking mind. And just let me tell you, this is so much more beautiful in person than it even is on camera. It's so stunning. And you guys are so sick of hearing me talk about Fuzzball, but it's so incredible. I had so much fun with this one. But I love the mattes as well, the tones of the mattes. I did a look with Peach Please, I'm Peachless. I did a little bit of Peach for the Stars, or it was Life's a Peach, and a little bit of Peach Boys. It's on my channel somewhere, and it was look number 3 of this video, and I was saying through the whole thing that I didn't think the look was going to turn out, and I hated, like, I just got my hair cut, and I hated my haircut the whole time until I did that look and made that short, and I was like, dang, like, it's so freaking good. But the shimmers are so glossy and freaking gorgeous. It makes me so happy that I can't even stand it. I just love this palette. This is one that, you know, I do have some palettes, like I'll create looks with them and stuff, and then I'll forget about them. To name a few, the Odin's Eye Moonwish, the Fresh Prince from GLAMLITE. I mean, I love them, and they were good quality, but the color stories don't stick out in my mind. Lethal Cosmetics Mellow Grove, that one as well. Like, there are several, but sometimes, like, I'll run across those palettes that they really just stick in my mind because they have such terrific color stories. Like, they mark all the boxes for me. And I feel the same exact way about this palette. I love Fantasy Cosmetica. Let me tell you what Amanda did. Okay, so in episode 12 of the Should We Buy It series, I was talking about the new palette, the Harvest of Souls from Fantasy Cosmetica, and I was explaining how much I love this brand, but I've only picked up 3 palettes from them, and I really wanted to go back and buy the older ones. Amanda, being as sweet as she is, decided to go on the site and buy me all of the palettes that I did not have. I lost my mind. I'm so excited. Like, oh, I'm so freaking spoiled, and I'm so grateful for her. Like, she is so freaking incredible. But I'm excited. I cannot wait to try out these other palettes, and let me know what you want to see looks with. I'm thinking about doing like a whole Fantasy Cosmetica review where I do looks, like maybe 4 looks for each individual video, like make it a series, and then because I think there'll be like 9 or 10 palettes in total, and then at the end I could do another video where we rank them and everything. But I'm excited. But she's incredible. But I'm so excited, and I love this palette. I love this color story. It's so inspiring. It reminds me of the A Starry Night painting, and I love that so much. That is one of my favorite paintings. It's just, it reminds me of my childhood, but it's so freaking beautiful. And this palette blew me away. This was my first Fantasy Cosmetica palette, and this is the one that made me want to buy everything else. Like, I didn't plan on doing it, but okay. The shimmers are so good. So this top shade is called Graviturgy. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it is so beautiful. It shifts from like blue to purple. I'm trying to get a better swatch of that because it looks different on the finger and on the eye. But do you see those holographic glitters? Like, they are so freaking insane. I lost my mind. I think these are like one of the first hollows I tried. I could be wrong about that, but they are all so beautiful. I had such a blast with this palette. I still think about it all the time, and it's been a little bit since this one was released. I know it released this year, but it's such a good one. And the artwork, I'm so excited to get the older ones too, though. It's gonna be so fun. So let's do Unearthly next. Unearthly was one of the first like indie brands that I tried and was obsessed with, outside of like GLAMLITE and Juvia's Place. Let me rephrase, the first of the indie brands who did like really colorful stories, really special shades, and you know, like, I love their whole vibe. It's very weird and alien-esque, like they used to be Alien Cosmetics, so it makes total sense. But this brand is complete fantasy, and I love that so much. So my first 3 palettes that I bought from them, which a lot of you already know, are these ones that released Halloween 2 years ago, and I lost my freaking mind over these palettes. I've used them so much. So first we have So Strange, and I have Pan and these 2 shadows. This shade right here, Unusual. Now these were flaky. Their new formula now isn't like that, but I actually kind of miss this formula in a way. Like, I can understand why they switched, because I know a lot of people, like if you have hooded eyes and stuff, you can't even use like these kind of shades because they will crease on you. But these ones were more shifty, and I missed that aspect of it. Like, Unusual is one of my favorite shades in my whole entire collection, and I just lost my mind. That on a black base is incredible, but so is the top one in the shade Scared of Sheets. It took me a minute. But Unusual is in the new revamped All I Ever Wanted, and it's really beautiful in that palette as well. It's just not as like real shifty, you know what I mean? Because she did take that emollients down a little. But then we have the Weirdos. I love this one. This is one of my favorites as well, and you can totally see I've panned in this one, I'm close in that one, and I have a big dent in that one, the black. But I love these grungy tones. These were some of my first grungy shades in my collection, but you just have no idea how much I lost my freaking mind over this palette, this whole collection. I wish I would have gotten Warms My Blood. I'm so mad at myself for not picking that one up. And now I have no, like, I can't. It sucks so bad. But then we have 1964. I loved this one. I really loved this shade right here, but mine is dried out. It's like, and it's like 2 years old, so it's probably a good thing that she did update the formula. But that shade was one of my favorites in my collection. It's so shifty and pretty. These ones are fine, like everything else was fine, but for some reason that shade turned like hard as a rock. But do you see how wet looking those are? I'm gonna be covered in glitter, but Jesus, they are so good. They make me so happy. So then we have the Resurgence, and I loved this one too. Like you can tell from the inside of it, it's like crusty, and it's got like loose eyeshadow everywhere. I need to wipe it out. But the only thing about this one that makes me sad is I'm allergic to these two shades down here. They make my eyes water like nobody's business, but I use this so much. I actually liked using this with the 3 Halloween palettes, and I had so much fun. I think this is such a fun color story. This one is still available, I think, but I think you can only get it in the bundle, which I do recommend the full thing, but this palette is so freaking gorgeous. And then I picked up Lure, and I love this one. You could tell this one has been well loved as well. I like taking this like on little vacations or going to visit my mom and my other family. It's just a really good palette. I love the color story. It's totally Halloween and fall, but I do my makeup however I want to, like throughout the year. I don't really go by seasons as much, but I think this is freaking gorgeous. And same with the Daily Grind. This is like one of my top favorites from Unearthly Cosmetics, and she mentioned in a live that she's considering discontinuing it. So if you have not gotten your hands on it yet and you like this color story, you need it. Trust me, like, you don't need it, but it's really good. It really is. Like, look at those shimmers. This has the new updated shimmer formula, and they are so like wet looking. This formula is like so silky and smooth and thin, but so shiny and impactful. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. But this is one that's definitely very loved in my collection. I really like these 9 pans, which is kind of what gets me really excited about the ones that Amanda picked me up from Fantasy Cosmetica, because those will be good ones for me to take too. But like, there's a lot of those palettes that I'm excited to try. So then we have 3 of, not new, these are like a year old, but they're newer than the others, and I love these 12 pans. They're awesome. My favorite out of these 3, it's really hard because I really love them all, but it's DEVOUR. I have devoured this palette. It's so freaking delicious. I love this color story. I love this green with the shade. It takes me out. But all 3 of these shimmers down here have significant dips, like a lot of these shades do. I've used this palette so much. Like, this was my favorite palette for quite a while. It's still a favorite, but it's not my favorite. I think if I really had to narrow it down, I think my favorite, at least at this very moment in my whole entire collection, and that's a really hard thing to say, but I think it's the Poison Garden. I'm pretty sure that palette's gonna rank #1 for the year. Like, there's something about that palette. It's so freaking incredible, but that's a whole other video. We'll get into that later. But I also really loved Sorcerer's Smoke. This palette is beautiful, and I do have pan in this one. It's so, like, this is my kind of neutral palette. I just love it. I love the swampy greens. I love this shade down here. It's so beautiful. And even this shade, you get like that steely blue. It like looks brown, but in person, it has like these blue, oh, wrong shade, Heather. It has like these blue like glitter flips in it, and it's really pretty. And you guys know how I like to do that deeper shimmer on the towards the outer corner, not exactly like the outer part of the lid. So that shade is like perfect for me to have in this palette. I think it's so beautiful, but the other shimmers are so gorgeous as well. I've had so much fun with it. You could create so many looks, like so many easy looks. And I know a lot of people don't have time to like sit and spend hours on their makeup, and if that's you and you do like this color story, you will love this palette. And this one is also a favorite. It's Fall Magic. This palette is so freaking beautiful, which is why I do have Pan in the shade. It's so pretty. I love these shimmers. I should have swatched some of the DEVOUR shimmers. And I don't like swatching leaves because it's like getting panned, but look at those. They're so pretty and so shiny. They're so freaking perfect. I love them. They're so wet looking. It's insane. Then we have Bella Beauty Bar. Like I said, I didn't let myself add palettes that I only got just this month because it's not fair. That's why Poison Garden isn't in here, but I guarantee you it will be the next time I do this like video when I update it. But oh my god, Dead Roses. Someone just commented on a video and said when they put As If on the eye with, I can't remember what she said here, that it literally changed her life. And that's exactly how I felt about this palette. And I know how like dramatic that sounds, but this palette is dramatic and it's so good. Like, it's so much more than what you could ever expect it to be. I could not recommend it more. I know they just did a restock. If this is there, I highly recommend. I also have a code with them. It's the same, AOML. And like, my camera and stuff wasn't that good before, so the swatches and stuff that I did, I feel like weren't as good as they could have been. I'm gonna just, hold on, I gotta do this one too. Oh, it's so pretty. Look at that. Look at those. Like, the shifts are so freaking sickening. That's why I love them, because their shimmer formula is like really smooth. Every once in a while there'll be like a flaky shade in the palette, like this one down here is a little flaky when you pick it up, but it smooths out like so easily. It's just so beautiful, and this palette is like so much more than I expected it to be. Like, I just lost my freaking mind. It looks like an everyday pink, purple, and red palette, but then you see the shifts and you just lose your freaking mind. It's so glorious. It just makes me so happy. But hopefully they're showing on camera like pretty well. I hope so. Fingers crossed. But if you have this palette, let everyone know down below in the comments how freaking amazing it is, because you know it is. Unless you don't like the color story, then I would understand. You guys know I've been raving about this palette for months. I bought it this summer, and oh my god, it is so good. It's one of my favorites from Bella Beauty Bar. I don't even know. Oh, it's like my second or third favorite. It's like, I did a ranking video. I'll link it down below. I'll pop the thumbnail up on the screen. But like I said, I did a ranking video, and I told you guys in that video that those like top ones, they will fluctuate depending on my mood, because I love them all equally but for different reasons. So my different moods and things like that are gonna pull out like different, it's gonna pull the other ones to the forefront, if that makes sense. But I love this palette so much. I do know this one is on the site, and it's so freaking beautiful. I love these shimmers. Let's do a few. Oh my god, Digital Zombie. You can kind of see like on that black like how vibrant that is. Look at, oh, it's not showing like the vibrancy of the purple. Let me see if I can turn my lights down. You can kind of see it, but not really. This shade is like very vibrant. I've never seen anything like it. It's so freaking beautiful. Okay, then we'll do these ones. Depleted, Fake Famous. Those are some of my favorites. There is Depleted on the bottom, and then Fake Famous on the top. It's so pretty. Let me turn my lights back up. But then we have Screenshot. That's a good one as well. It's like this really pretty seafoam green that flips to this cool tone purple. It's really freaking cool. Collab is a good one as well. Like, look how pretty. I'm pretty sure I swatch all the shimmers in that video. If you guys want to see like a more updated video on these Bella Beauty Bar palettes, but they are so freaking pretty. But the next palette I want to mention from this brand is the Basic Witch. This was the like first technically palette that I've tried from them, and I love this so much. Cauldron kind of reminds me of this shade in this palette, but only because of its vibrancy. It's very vibrant too. It's so freaking pretty. I love the shimmers in this palette. Hocus Pocus and Resting Witch Face, which you guys have heard me talk about a lot. Those are some of my favorite shimmers as well. Like, their formula is truly so spectacular. It stands out in a crowd. It's so amazing. These palettes, I can't imagine them not always being like favorites and most used palettes in my collection. I mean, we'll have to see like how many I bring up, you know, throughout the time that I'm here on YouTube, which is hopefully a long time. But now let's talk about Blend Bunny. And I only want to mention two of their palettes because these are my like absolute favorites, and the first one is Sugar and Grunge. So I got this palette before I ever even started YouTube, and I love it so freaking much. It's so beautiful, namely because of the shimmers. They're so light and just gorgeous springtime shades. This palette is so beautiful for spring. I'm so sorry if you hear my dogs barking in the background. They are brats, but I just think this one is beautiful. But out of these two, this one is my favorite. It is the Longing. This one was released this year, and this is my most used palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics, and it's so freaking beautiful. I just love it so much. I love this cool tone story. Longing is such a great name for this palette. Like, I can see it when I look at this color story, and it's so beautiful. These are my favorite shimmers that they have done as well, which I have not dived into the Robert Welsh one just yet. I did swatch it and it's freaking beautiful, but I highly recommend this one. And then last brand to talk about is Cosmic Brushes. I love them so much. One of my favorite palettes from them is the Serenity. I know these got mentioned in episode 1 of this series, but I have used this palette so much. I got this one also before YouTube, and I have created so many looks with this. I love mixing it with Muse, which is another palette I want to mention. I just like the sporadic color story. It just does something for me, and I can see so many looks. I would prefer a color story be scattered like this than laid out the way that Blend Bunny tends to do theirs, because when I see certain shades next to each other, it kind of inspires me to create different looks. And I don't like to really go through my palettes and mix up the shades because, I don't know, it bothers me. I need everything to be like in its place, at least here, because every other aspect of my daily life and area is chaos. So I prefer my shimmers and mattes to be like where they were originally placed by the brand. But that's something I love about them. That and their shimmer formula and their matte formula are so freaking good. I did pick up the mystery box, and I know a bunch of you did as well. I'm so excited for us to get to see the new 20 pan palette and see all the new stuff. I know it has like 7 or 8 exclusive items, and I'm ready. But let's talk about Muse, since I already showed it to you. I love this Fairy Garden palette. It reminds me of a fairy garden. It makes me want to be a fae and just go off in my little fantasy world. I just think it's so fun. I love this shade down here. It's one of my favorites in this palette. It's like got that olive base, but it has like this beautiful purple mauve shift with these gold shimmers throughout it. It's so beautiful. Like the sage colored base, like, you know, this green willow, it's there, but it's subtle, and I think that's pretty. But this shaded throughout the crease with willow on the lid is so freaking pretty. You could even do, like, pick out one of these mauves. Petal would be a good one to do in the inner corner to brighten. And then you could even, look how pretty that is together. And then this shade up in the top corner, Luster, that one would be pretty, like, in the inner corner. That is such a gorgeous look. But that's what I love about this brand. You could do, like, easy, quick looks, but you could also, like, mix and match colors and do funky, crazy looks, and I love that. And I love this palette. I love this palette so much. I lost my mind over this one. I do have a video up of this. I love this shade up here. I just love those, like, iridescent shades. It's called Radiant, and for very good reason. This shade is so beautiful. This one reminds me of Lava from Inslee Rain from the Groovy Garden, is that what it's called? I think so. It's so freaking pretty. I just love the shimmers in this palette. I had so much fun with them. Like, just look how beautiful and wet looking they are. This formula is fantastic. The price range is insane, like how much more affordable it is than a typical indie brand, because the shimmers in here are really extraordinary, and I could not recommend them more. I love them so much, and it's nice that people do get to try, like, special shades at a more affordable price without losing any of that quality. I know the Culturals palette has hollows in it and everything. That palette is really beautiful as well, and I really love it, but this one is my favorite. These two released at the same time, so I tend to compare them against each other. I still have not gotten to use them together, and I desperately want to so freaking bad. So I would love to hear which palettes in your collection are your most used palettes, which ones are your favorites. That's the fun part about this series, because not only do I get to share mine, who win the awards, you guys get to share yours with me. Some of you already have, and I love reading your comments so much. I like picking up some stuff too that you guys recommend. I found a lot of great products that way already, but thank you guys so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I am so sorry that I had that fan going the whole video. I'm usually better about it, but I just got done filming this look and I was so hot, so I needed some air, and I completely forgot to turn it off. But like I said, thank you guys so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed yet, I really hope you will. But until next time, bye.